So there's bad news for everyone who actually cares about fair representation in their elections. Now, the conservative Supreme Court had just ruled against challenge that would actually take on partisan gerrymandering. Now, the vote was, of course, along party lines, 5-4, but the court's more conservative justices in the majority. Now, here's a statement here from, the majority opinion from Chief Justice John Roberts. He said that understood that politics, he said the drafters of the Constitution understood that politics would play a role in drawing election districts when they gave the task to state legislators. Judges, the chief said, are not entitled to second-guess lawmakers' judgments. We conclude that partisan gerrymandering claims present political questions beyond the reach of the federal courts. So take a look at that argument. They're basically saying, we think it's fine. We're not going to answer that question. That's up to the state lawmakers. And what we think the state lawmakers are doing is okay. We have no place to judge on that. Well, wait a minute. Isn't that kind of your job? Aren't you a judge? I mean, look, gerrymandering, the thing about gerrymandering is that it's designed to give one party a clear advantage over the other. Both parties use it to great effect. To me, that is voter suppression. Now, don't we have laws in the books against voter suppression? I mean, here's the thing. What we have now in the system of gerrymandering is that representatives pick their voters instead of the opposite, where you're supposed to actually pick your representatives. I mean, it's crazy that the Supreme Court has made this argument. But I guess it shouldn't be all that surprising that Republicans are using that because they have been, while both parties have done it, Republicans have been immensely successful in using gerrymandering to their advantage electorally. Now, one case decided on Thursday from North Carolina concerned a plan drawn by Republican state lawmakers in 2016. Now, part of that plan included criteria called partisan advantage. Now, come on. You have a plan that clearly points out and lays out that, hey, man, look, I'm going to draw this map that has to have a partisan advantage for us. I want our party. In fact, the state's delegation was, okay, let me go here to a quote from David Lewis, right? Now, David Lewis is a Republican member of the General Assembly's Redistricting Committee. And he said, quote, on these maps in 2011, or in 2016, quote, I think electing Republicans is better than electing Democrats. So I drew this map to help foster what I think is better for the country. Hey, man, look, I'm a Republican, and I think Republicans are absolutely right. So I'm going to take the choice away from you, and I'm going to give it to me. I'm going to make that choice for you. I'm going to choose the people who agree with me and screw everybody else who doesn't agree with me. Why? Because I have the power to be able to do it. Now, the state's congressional delegation was, at the time that these maps were made up of 10 Republicans and 3 Democrats. They already had the power, right? But a key goal, lawmakers said, was to, quote, maintain the current partisan makeup of North Carolina's congressional delegation. Keep everything the same. So, let's see. Basically, he says, well, isn't that great? I get to decide and not the voters. But if it's not obvious enough, he says this, quote, I propose that we draw the maps to give a partisan advantage to 10 Republicans and 3 Democrats, because I do not believe it's possible to draw a map with 11 Republicans and 2 Democrats. He's saying, look, if I could have made it more unfair, well, then I would have. He's basically rubbing it in your face. He's saying, yeah, of course. If I would have been able to make it more unfair, I would have, because I don't want it to be fair. I want to have the advantage. I want the Republicans to have an advantage. I'm a Republican, so that's it. That's all I care about. And, of course, the result is, in 2016, Republican congressional candidates won 53% of the statewide vote. Now, they run 53%, so that's a small majority, right? Now, that means, of course, if everything were fair, they would have about 53% of the representation, right? They ended up winning 10 out of 13 congressional districts. That's 2/3 of all the congressional districts, 77%. Got 53% of the vote, received 77% of the congressional districts. How is that fair? Now, in 2018, the vote was more evenly divided, about 50% each. But Democrats, again, only secured about 3 seats in the congressional delegation. Now, does that sound like democracy? No. And now, look, it's not just Democrats being suppressed, by the way. It's Republicans, too. One case, Lamone versus Benesek, was brought by Republican voters who said that Democratic state lawmakers had in 2011 had redrawn a district to retaliate against citizens who supported its longtime incumbent, Representative Roscoe Bartlett, who was a Republican. Now, that retaliation, according to the plaintiffs, violated their First Amendment by diluting their voting power. So this was a case brought by Republicans and saying, hey, look, if you can gerrymander this that bad, then, I mean, that takes away my representation. It takes away my voice out of democracy. And so, look, Mr. Bartlett, by the way, say hi to Kitty. Mr. Bartlett, let's go down, Kitty. All right. Now, Mr. Bartlett had won his 2010 race by a margin of 28 percentage points. In 2012, he lost to Representative John Delaney, by a 21-point margin. Now, last year, after the Supreme Court returned the case to the United States District Court in Maryland, a 3-judge panel of that court ruled for the challengers, barred state officials from conducting further congressional elections using the 2011 maps, and ordered them to draw new ones. But now it seems like partisan gerrymandering, according to the court, now is fine. Now, they previously made a decision that it, wasn't necessarily fine, but now the court has been made up of mostly conservatives, for example, Neil Gorsuch and Judge Kavanaugh. Well, they've now made the decision that, oh no, this partisan gerrymandering is absolutely fine. And they're going to use it to their advantage, and they have used it to their advantage all over the country. I mean, they won in 2010. They gerrymandered the hell out of all the districts. And now, hey, they continue to win. And see, here's the thing, right? The reason that they're doing this, that they're using this as a strategy, is because their share of the electorate is declining. And this is the only way for them to stay in power. If you can't beat it, cheat it. And again, the Supreme Court, which is very conservative because Mitch McConnell stole that seat from Merrick Garland, said it was okay as long as it helps their side. Now, let's be clear. Partisan gerrymandering has to end, whether it helps Democrats or Republicans. And even Kitty agrees that it should end. Isn't that right, buddy? No more partisan gerrymandering, says the Kitty. And it needs to end because, look, it both helps Democrats and Republicans, and they both use it to suppress those different groups. I'm not interested in helping one team or the other. No, we need everyone to be representative. If we can to be represented, if we ever want to continue to call ourselves a representative democracy. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.